Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy, the Knight of Justice, and today we're going to be going over the remastered version of the Silver Surfer, and I will admit we have done some long and hard research on compiling just how powerful the Silver Surfer is and all his variants, from his base state to amp versions of himself to high-end scaling that you could apply for the Silver Surfer. So I'm just going to say, it's going to be a real interesting video. But before we get into just how powerful Surfer is, I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Jazz, my friend on Discord, for helping me out on compiling these different versions of Surfer and how strong they would be. We did a lot of hard research on this, and he's been helping me out with my Marvel videos over time. So, if you don't mind, give this man a shout out, he deserves it. So, with that out of the way, let's get into just how powerful the Surfer is and who he is. But with that out of the way, let's get into who the Silver Surfer is and how powerful he potentially can be. Now, I know some of you may not know who the Silver Surfer is, and for some of you who do, well, good for you. I mean, this guy has like decades of comics in his name, and he has plenty of appearances over the years. But if you're from like another universe or something, you don't know who the silver guy on a surfboard flying through space is, let me just give a brief recap on his story. Norrin was born on the planet known as Zenla, part of an extremely long-lived and technologically advanced humanoid race, which had created a worldwide utopia, void of crime, disease, hunger, poverty, and what anything kind of like humanity has nowadays that are pretty bad for society. Norrin was raised as an extremely intelligent youth, encouraged to seek knowledge and advance the achievements rather than aimlessly home and made come of the more, beneficial or take advantage of Zenla's society. Norrin's life changed, was forever changed when he found that the spacecraft that entered his atmosphere was of the mighty devourer of worlds, Galactus. And obvious Galactus has come into his world to consume it and all of Zenla. So instead of allowing Galactus to devour his world, Norrin offered himself to become his new herald and allowed him to seek worlds for Galactus to consume instead of his home world of Zenla. Galactus agreed to this and turned Surfer into the silver-coated, cosmically powered, super-powered being riding the surfboard known today as the Silver Surfer. Forever, Surfer's life will be changed as searching for planets for Galactus to consume. Long story short, Surfer did not agree with Galactus harboring worlds that would harvest life. And since Surfer valued life to the utmost, he decided to give Galactus planets for that he can, where there's life were not on them, so he can consume. Eventually, Surfer would betray his fellow master and go on to be more of a rogue herald, as many of Galactus had over the years. I will not go over a whole breakdown of Surfer's backstory, but you get the gist of the idea. So, let's get into what you all really came here for. Surfer's power and where he scales. We'll start with some lower showings and then we'll work our way up. For starters, Surfer has been able to obliterate a planet which was formed when Surfer was at the center of it. His clash with Morg, another former hero of Galactus, their fight was able to destroy the entire planet. To give a warning to Ravenous of how serious he was, Surfer destroyed the entire planet destroying means of his power. Surfer can also surf exploding supernovas for fun and take the light of stars by also flying through the lights of suns just fine. He also fought against Red Sith, another former hero of Galactus, and they were able to fight in the center of a black hole, mostly on top of a black hole. In his battle with Unilord, he was able to direct enough energy to destroy the entire solar system. He was also able to survive the clash with Thanos when his fight with the Astrats that ravaged entire solar systems. Surfer also stated to Dr. Doom that if his power is misused, it can destroy an entire galaxy. It was also stated by Unilord. It was also stated by the Watcher that in his fight with Unilord, not only a solar system was being destroyed, but an entire world and galaxies were being destroyed in their clash. Surfer was once able to contain enough energy that would destroy two universes. Although this wasn't a crossover with Green Lantern, I wouldn't be surprised if Surfer could do this anyway. So I just thought to mention it just on the behalf of Surfer. He also scales with Thor, who was able to direct enough energy from the null bomb that was capable of wiping out the Black Galaxy. Thor also survived the particles of the Unbinding Stone, which can destroy all of reality. Thor is also able to break out the Tesseract, a self-contained universe, and Thor was implied to break out of this without any trouble at all. Thor is also able to shake the foundations of the underworld to the furthest reaches of the realm. Thor, along with another Thor, converted enough energy that could rival the Big Bang. Thor also tanked an explosion that rivaled the Big Bang itself. Surfer also scales the Hulk, who was able to destroy Nightcrawler's dimension and channel enough energy to destroy 2 universes. Hulk also channeled enough energy from an alternate universe to destroy the universe. Hulk, Thor, and Surfer also scaled to Hyperion, who was able to tank the destruction of 2 universes. During the Incurgence, Surfer was able to fight against Mephisto inside of his own realm and overpower him on different occasions. Not always consistent, but you can use the upscale Surfer pretty high in his base form. This is quite an interesting feat that me and Jazz found recently. When the Elders of the Universe guided the Infinity Stone and attempted to destroy Galactus because Galactus was deemed a threat in their eyes and they were destroying the entire world, so they decided to get rid of him by using the Infinity Stones like Thanos did in the past. Well, in an attempt to destroy Galactus, they fired the beam at Galactus and Surfer was able to direct this beam powered by the Infinity Stones. So, going off of this, base Surfer should at least be Solar System to Universal Plus, possibly low multiversal if you can argue it, but I'd rather stick with Solar System to Universal Plus just to be fair to it. Now we're going to go into amps or alternate versions of the Silver Surfer. The first alternate version we'll be going over is the Keeper. This Surfer is just basically a stronger version of himself that received training from the Watcher, well actually another Watcher, for centuries to train him with the quantum bands that he received from Eon. But prior to this, he tried to use these quantum bands along with all of his power cosmic to take down Galactus, but was eventually flicked away and easily defeated. Then later on received training from the Watcher to better use the quantum bands and became a lot more powerful this way. He eventually confronted Galactus again. He was able to fight and defeat Galactus and then was on the verge of killing him, but decided to feed him instead, because since if Galactus dies, it will mostly become like a universal or multiversal imbalance, because during this time Galactus was more of a safekeeper to keep the celestial population in check. But this Galactus he defeated was most likely an embodied, so he would scale to at least low multiversal to multiversal plus. Not only this, Galactus Surfer was so strong that Galactus could not take away his power cosmic, and it was mostly stated that he was like a rival to Galactus. But you may say that this is a different version of Galactus or Surfer, or why would this matter? Well, the Guardians of the Galaxy were like flung into like the distant future, and they met like this version of Surfer. He tells them of the events that transpired in his universe and how he fought them before. So even if you were to say this is like a different version or a different version of Surfer, it's mostly a stronger version of Surfer and a different version of Galactus. Either way, this version will likely be counterpart to the 616 universe, and you can compare them to like the same version from the 616. Since this Surfer has the quantum bands, he can likely use it to BFR people to the Argo Gate, which is within the quantum bands. This form of BFR can erase your mind and your body, and your mind can get taken into a place where you're placed to a table where you're able to see the other users of the quantum bands and sit there for all of eternity. So you can say that Surfer with the quantum bands can perform this form of BFR. Moving on, we're going to get into the Annihilation version of Surfer that appeared in the Annihilation event, and this was an Amp Surfer in this event, who was powered by Galactus to fight against Agent Tenebris, 2 primordial gods that defeated Galactus and Surfer prior in the earlier issues. But before we touch in on that, let's explain the event that happened before the Amp. After Drax freed Surfer from the device that was kept Galactus' imprisonment and also himself, Surfer was the only one that could free Galactus from his imprisonment, since Drak killed Thanos prior to this. Moondragon stated that someone that was on Thanos' caliber was be able to power this device, and the only one that was there or could think of at the time was the Silver Surfer. So you can say that this Surfer was still around the level of classic Thanos in his base, or Thanos during this point in time. Now regarding the Amp, after Annihilation event, Galactus amped Surfer to the point where he was able to face the primordial gods again, who were aging the Tenebris. Now, as I said before, these two primordial gods were so powerful they were able to pretty much defeat Galactus, since Thanos convinced him to take down Galactus for Annihilation's plan to use Galactus as a bomb to destroy the 616 universe and the negative zone. This Surfer was able to fight and defeat these two primordial gods by manipulating the energy of the Big Crunch, which was their imprisonment. So since the Surfer was amped to an extent, he was able to defeat two beings that were on the same level of Galactus. This amped Surfer will be at least low multiversal, 2 multiversal plus through like hacks, and you can say their ability, since he was able to tank attacks from the two primordial gods and manipulate energy that was able to defeat them. Now we're going to move on to Worthy Surfer that appeared in Donny Cates' Thanos run. You all may know him from the King Thanos storyline. Now, bear with me, I'm going to be honest. When I first did a video on this Surfer, I really hyped him up. But now that when me and Jazz and a few others went over the issues and reread it, we came to a conclusion that he was a lot more, hyped up to an extent that he shouldn't have been. Now, I know all of you will not agree with me on this, and that's fine. I'm cool with it. But I'm just going to be honest with you. This Surfer is kind of hard to scale given the issues of the storyline. Now, where you all may scale this version of Surfer is off of King Thanos, right? Now, let's break down on why this storyline doesn't make sense from a scaling standpoint. Now, this Thanos, we don't really know how he killed these abstracts. If he did it with prep or if he didn't have prep. But if we look at what Thanos has done over years, he's done most of his plannings or his conquering or fights with use of prep. Either he was using prep to take over the entire multiverse, or when he was fighting against the heroes, or fighting against big bads like Galactus or Tyrant. He's always normally had prep under his belt. That's what Thanos does. You won't see him always on occasions like going to a fight like wilding and throwing hands. He always usually have prep to back up his plan. That's how Thanos' character, his nature. So let me give an example. When Thanos went to go confront Tyrant, he didn't go confronting him guns blazing. He went to with a plan to get one of Tyrant's power ores that he used against him, and it wasn't even his full plan, or say his main objective. But even with this amp, he wasn't able to defeat Tyrant, but he at least was able to hold his own. And then later on, it was revealed that Tyrant had like an even bigger amp than Thanos even had. Or when he went to go fight against Galactus, his power was no match for Galactus, but although Galactus admitted his shields were impressive, Thanos' power paled in comparison to Galactus' raw power. Or when Thanos went to gather the Infinity Gems and take down the Elders of the Universe, he used strategic tactics to take the Infinity Gems one by one from the Elders of the Universe. So you see, almost on every occasion, Thanos had a plan to achieve his goal. Whether it was to get the Cosmic Cube, or the Infinity Gauntlet, or the Heart of the Universe, or the Cosmic Regulator, he always had a plan to further on his goals, not always going into a fight guns blazing. Or like the Infinity Story arc, when he went to go get Thane from the Inhumans, his son, he didn't go there like by himself, like going out guns blazing. Like I said before, he had like an entire army on his belt and the Black Order to help him out. So you see, almost on every occasion, Thanos had like a plan or some army or some strategic tactic to take down whatever foe or whatever stood in his way. Now you also may say, well, Thanos was able to use Black Bolt to destroy an army of Celestials, and he was able to take the explosion. And that, well, these Celestials are the same ones that are portrayed in Ultimates and the one that shattered the first firmament. Now, here's what I would ask you. Prove that the Celestials that are portrayed in Old King Thanos' story arc are the same ones portrayed in Ultimates. Because there are three reasons why we don't know that's the case. For one, we do not know which host King Thanos fought in his story arc. Second, the ones that shattered the first firmament were the first hosts that were ever created. The ones that were portrayed in Ultimates were the fourth and fifth hosts. The fourth host was killed off by Logos when he went to go confront them in their space when they flee from the Beyonders. The fifth hosts were brought back after Logos killed him by the help of the Never Queen and the Woman of all Celestials, since he was the last one left. And these Celestials were like in their true forms, since they were like big as the multiverse and were in the superflow, which is like the highest point of reality from like the lower planes. These same Celestials, the fifth host, were able to negate these aspirants, the Dark Celestials that were giving trouble to like Lifebringer Galactus. These same Dark Celestials that were sent by the first firmament to infect multi-eternity. And the first host fought against the Dark Celestials in their war when they shattered the first firmament over and over again until we got to the 7th iteration as today. 8th iteration, my bad. So many iterations of eternity to keep up with. Now another reason for this scaling will not work. You may say, oh, well, these were like true form Celestials. But as we know from like Ultimates or like earlier on in the years, that the true forms of the Aztecs or the Celestials were either being like overspace or dimensional manifestations or like the Star Chamber or the Superflow, like higher planes of reality that are higher than like the normal universe. So if it's like in universe, they will be embodies. So like for example, whenever you see like Eternity, the Living Tribunal, or Galactus, or Master World or Chaos being destroyed in universe or in the multiverse, it's usually an embody. Or as seen in Ultimates when they're fighting in like a plane which is like the highest point of reality where they can fight at their full power, they're more referring to their true forms. Or as I said, the Star Chamber where the Living Tribunal goes to meet. Or Overspace where the Abstracts meet. So just like any other occasion, especially King Thanos' story arc, when it's like in universe, when Thanos killed like Eternity, the Living Tribunal, or Sire Love, Mistress Hate, Galactus, or the Celestials, they were embodies. Now regarding the Celestials that King Thanos fought, I'm willing to say they were either the fourth host, the embodies of the fourth host. Now you may ask which Celestials or which hosts can we determine or figure out, which is like found in like comics nowadays. Well, let's see. The first host was the ones that fought the first firmament, right? The second, third, we usually see them like later on in like earlier Marvel, like in the 1990s or to like early 2000s, say, or mid 2000s. The fourth host is like seen like through modern Marvel, from like the last Secret Wars all the way to like Ultimates. Then they were killed off by Logos. Then they were reborn into the fifth host, which is from the Never Queen and One of all Celestial. And then we get to like the final host that appeared in Avengers of 2019. But now that's out of the way, there are other points that I haven't tackled that me and Jazz have like not gotten to, but you get the idea. You may say that King Thanos got stronger, yeah, but to an unknown amount. But here, what we know. The Aztecs that King Thanos fought were embodies, not their true forms. The same goes for the Celestials that were portrayed in Donny Cates' run of Thanos. They are not the same Celestials from Ultimates. Not the ones that fought the first firmament, and not the ones that scaled to the Superflow, that were in the Superflow that negged the aspirants. I would say the most likely assumption is that King Thanos may have fought the embodies of the fourth host. Now you may say, well, if King Thanos is not High 1B, then neither is the Celestials that fought against Null, right? Well, the reason Null is High 1B is because he scaled the Celestials that fought the first host. The same beings that was like in the most beginning of creation, or like the end phase of the war. When the Celestials killed the Dark Celestials and shattered the first firmament, they later went to create worlds throughout creation, and then when they encountered Null, which Null was standing in the void before creation, most likely, and then the Celestials appeared. And then we see Null kill one of the top dogs, the Isan the Searcher. Well, you may also say, well, Knight, those were embodies, right, that Null fought? Well, they were able to fight against the Dark Celestials, and that explosion that shattered the first firmament, they did tank the explosion. And you can say the Celestials didn't have a need for embodies since they were still within the void of creation creating worlds, so they were likely still in their truest forms, or still scaled to High 1B beings like the first firmament or the Dark Celestials. And like I said, when we ever see like the abstracts or like the Celestials and like their embodies or their own like worlds or the local universes. But either way, this was during the time when the birth of creation was formed and Null was like in the void before it was even created. And then when the Celestials came, he met and fought them. So it's plausible he met them like during or after the war even happened. But let's be fair to King Thanos. Let's say if he didn't have prep, and where would King Thanos scale along with Worthy Surfer, right? Let's go into like King Thanos' most notable feats of him killing old King Thor, who would scale above Odin, and like he would scale to Yggdrasil. There are feats I've mentioned, that some notable feats as what happened in Journey into Mystery, when Odin, which was weakened at this point, and he was fighting an Amp Seth. Their battle was echoing across every plane of creation, and they were destroying the very fabric of the Marvel multiverse. Another feat by Odin is when Surtur dies and his flame was going to engulf all the other world. It was going to consume all of reality, which was the World Tree, and Odin casually nullified it, saving Yggdrasil. As I said before, the 9 realms, or 10 realms at this point, you may recognize as a part of Yggdrasil, is the tip of a maybe infinite iceberg. What you know as worlds are like universes, fully formed and complex. All of time and space laid out before me, the World Tree and its branches, infinite in its complexity. Loki saw infinite Asgards when he saw the full totality of Yggdrasil, which makes it extremely into multiversal plus. We also have the fact that old King Thor was stated to have the Odin Force or Thor Force a lot longer than his father ever did, implying he's stronger, if not more experienced than Odin. Old King Thor also was able to hold his own against a hungry Galactus and was able to defeat him once he was able to acquire the Necrosword. A decently fed Galactus is also able to fight against Odin in a Mind Hacks battle and defeat him. Even though Odin was able to knock Galactus out for a period of time, Galactus soon got up and said that this fight was tiring. A well-fed Galactus was able to hold his own and defeat a no-name Celestial before they combined to the Mad Celestial. Keep in mind that no-name Celestials and named Celestials prior to Ultimates, pre-Ultimates, can be arranged to multiversal plex to a complex multiversal, scaling off of Cubic and Cosmos, where Cubic states that they're infinite 4D, and that no-name Celestials are infinitely above them, transcending them in terms of power, and that their power pales in comparison to them. So like I said, if we are being fair to old King Thanos and Worthy Surfer, King Thanos was able to kill Galactus, who had eons of prep, meaning he had plenty of time to feed on worlds and make himself a lot more powerful than like a regular Galactus. And Thanos was able to one-shot him, along with completely netting old King Thor, the abstracts now, and embodied Celestials, also embodied abstracts, and also taking care of Sidorak, since we see that Ghost Rider has Ceterax's bones as chains. And we have the fact that Worthy Surfer was able to fight off the forces of Thanos for eons, fighting against Old King and modern Thanos, plus Cosmic Ghost Rider. Killed Cosmic Ghost Rider, who was able to kill Celestials, as he stated in the Avengers of 2008 issue 24. He also used the Penance Stare on a Dark Celestial too. This Surfer was so powerful that Old King Thanos was worried and concerned that he would not be able to defeat him, even telling modern Thanos that he'd never faced a foe like this before. Worthy Surfer was able to overpower the two Thanos until Surfer kept letting his guard down and they defeated him. But he was able to hold his own against them and was able to overpower them for a brief moment. This should at least make him Multiversal Plus 2 Complex Multiversal if we were being nice. There are other means to argue Thanos into high 1B, but I wouldn't use the method that is portrayed, that people like to use, saying that he scales off of the Celestials portraying Ultimates. I'm fine with 1B, and there are other means to get him to high 1B, though I would not use them that much. This Surfer was so powerful that he was able to hold his own in combat against Null, and this Surfer was amped by Ego when he was connected to all planes of creation. So why is this important? Well, the first hosts were able to fight against and defeat the Dark Celestials and end the war that shattered the first firmament 7 times over, which led us to the 8th iteration. The first firmament was the first Omniverse before the 8th iteration. Null was there at the beginning of creation, fought against the first host and was able to kill Eon the Searcher, and was later BFR by them within the void. Surfer was then sent back in time to the point where he was able to fight against Null. Although he was able to damage Null, giving Null whole weakness to like light, or somewhat affected by light, as shown like when he was affected by Thor, which connected his connection to the symbiotes. He lost his connection to the symbiotes this way. Well, anyway, after Surfer was defeated by Null, he later got help from Ego to fight against Null. Ego was able to connect Surfer to all planes of reality, basically powering him with the power of creation. Surfer used his imp to fight against Null. He was able to hold his own and keep up with Null, but he was losing the fight against Null. He then was able to cover Null in a ball of energy and BFR Null away, since he stated he could not defeat Null, but at least he can hold Null off. Then soon after this, he died and went to a planet called the New Zenla by using the last energy of his power to grow a plant. He then died and then came back into the present day, soon becoming one with the universe in a sense, and came back into the present. Since this Surfer, while he was amped, was able to combat Null and hold his own against him, this Surfer would at least be high into high 1B, scaling off of Null and the first host. But as it is, this will be inconsistent since this was an amped version of Surfer and not a base Surfer. If this was a base Surfer, then yeah, this would be impressive, but this was an amped variant of Surfer. Now moving on to Shaper of Worlds Surfer, the strongest amped version of Silver Surfer. So this Surfer is pretty simple. He became the Shaper of Worlds and had the power of the Shaper of Worlds. So let's start with how powerful the Shaper of Worlds is. Well, in Ultimates, it's explained that he was the one that created the 7 iterations of the multiverse. So since Surfer had his powers, he can perform the same things that he can do. The reason that Surfer absorbed his powers, that he was going to create a universe where Galactus didn't exist. The short version of this story is that the Surfer used the power to make the universe bit by bit, but the Surfer gets carried away and decides to make a universe without Galactus. Also, with all the worlds he had devoured, which is apparently bad because it upsets the cosmic order of things. While the world universe is being used, it's pretty clear they're talking about the whole multiverse, since eternity describes itself as a subtotal of all things, and the cosmos within him is both the old and familiar. yet also new and different, referring to all things changed in Marvel did post Secret Wars. So since Surfer had all the power of the Shaper Worlds, he can create a creation just as the Shaper did in the past. So this put this version of Surfer, amped with the power of the Shaper Worlds, pretty high into high 1B. Or lame's terms, high hyperversal. Now, me and Jazz have found some real juicy wank. I mean, it's wank. It's not consistent. It's potential scaling for Surfer, but I can't stress this enough how much wank this is. Now, the Never Queen once said to Surfer that he was beyond her, and that he hit him with all the fates of the multiverse. In the Surfer, all he saw left was her crying. So Surfer was able to take an infinite amount of fate, so an infinite amount of multi-eternities. Note that this would not be considered consistent, of course, but like I said before, potential wank for Surfer. Now you may ask, who is the Never Queen? She is the embodiment of all possibilities within the multiverse, all maybes, all possibilities, with infinite amount of timelines dying inside of her, passing each moment, infinite amount of multi-eternities. Should she die, then all the possibilities will collapse into all inescapable destiny. She exists in a place outside of all time and space, in a place known as the Yet to Be. This is shown when Surfer and Dawn escape into a gap in reality, into a place of non-existence outside of everything. They learn that this land is called the land that couldn't be, shouldn't be, a place outside of eternity. Surfer explains, saying that this is impossible because eternity is everything that everyone that is, referring to multi-eternity. While the Never Queen is all that could be, finding eternity but is an empty void. She is the lover of eternity and is able to meet with eternity outside of all time and space, in the eternal moment where all possibilities could happen. Surfer's scaling to her is extremely inconsistent, of course, but I want to make this clear as can be that this is possible wank for Surfer in the future. So for conclusions, how powerful is the Silver Surfer, his base and ant variants and other versions? Well, for starting off in his base state, on a consistent basis he would at least be Solar System to Universal Plus. Ant versions like the Keeper should at least be low multiversal to Multiversal Plus. Worthy Surfer, going off the feats performed in Donny Cates' run of Thanos, he should at least be Multiversal Plus to High Complex Multiversal, scaling off of Celestial Embodies and Abstract Embodies. But if you want to wank the Celestial Embodies pre-Ultimates to High 1B, there are other methods been using the Ultimate runs. Shaper World Surfer, when Surfer had the power of the Shaper Worlds, he should at least be able to form the same abilities of the Shaper Worlds, meaning he has the power to shape his own creations, as the Shaper once did in the past as he shaped the other iterations of eternity. Going off of this Surfer, when he was amped with the Shaper World's power, should be high into High 1B. Keep in mind, in the following issue, when Surfer had the power of the Shaper Worlds, Galarin absorbed all the power of the Shaper Worlds and was able to take control of the new universe that was being made. The Never Queen returns and has Dawn and Surfer make a choice. They had a choice between the old universe of eternity and the new one that Galarin made, the new cosmos. Well, like I said before, while the word universe is being used frequently, it's pretty clear that they are talking about the whole multiverse, as Eternity explains that it describes itself as a sum total of all things and the cosmos within him, both old, new, and familiar, but different, as referencing to all changes in Marvel did post-Secret Wars. So this Surfer would be insanely powerful. But that has been the video for today. Sorry I didn't cover some of Surfer's hacks. I was kind of pressed for time. I will describe some of Surfer's hacks in the link in the description below. But if you like the video, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and also comment down below. Hit the notification button for more videos. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.